Hi everyone, welcome back. For today's mani, we're going to be using dip powders from Acrylic, Fetish, and Risen Legacy, and this is the mani that some of you have been waiting for. If you've been following me on my channel for a while, you will know that I was doing my nails in the hospital for some time back in October, and I ended up having a baby, and a lot of you are curious on the baby, and as you can see here, there is blue color, so I did have a boy, and we're going to be doing a mani today using press-ons, and we are going to be using dip liquids from Risen Legacy and custom decals from Nails Truly. Now I want to do a press-on set because I want like a little memento of my pregnancy journey. So let's just dive right into it. I do want to fully disclose that if you are sensitive to anything with miscarriages or pregnancy issues, this might not be the right video for you. I just want to be really sensitive to everyone's feelings because I will be talking about my journey and what happened to me during my pregnancy, and if it can be a little bit triggering to people who've experienced a loss or a really traumatic pregnancy experience. So I just want to make you aware that that is what we're going to be talking about today. So I do apologize if this is a video that you wanted to see and you're unable to. You can mute the audio if that helps, but there will be some pictures involved in the video. So otherwise, stay tuned for tomorrow's upload. This will be the only video that we'll be doing on this journey. Okay, so let's dive into it. So yes, I did have a boy. I ended up having a baby in November. So let's dial it back to how we got to the point that we got to with my pregnancy journey and me ending up in the hospital. So my pregnancy started out pretty normal. I did have an ultrasound. At one point, I was having twins, but the other twin didn't make it. And then I had another ultrasound, which at that point, I was diagnosed with a complete placenta previa. So basically, the placenta is covering the cervix completely and is super low, and it can attach itself to either the front of the cervix, which if you had a previous C-section can lead to other issues, or it can kind of connect to the back of the uterus. So my placenta previa was towards the back, which is better than the front, but it's still a very high risk pregnancy. Plus my age led to high risk pregnancy as well. So I kind of had a couple factors here. The placenta previa could have been a factor of two things. It could have been because I had a twin and then it didn't make it. And then another factor could have been I got pregnant right away after my last baby, which was planned that way. I do have a baby that was born on December 4th, and then the current baby was born on November 25th on Black Friday, so that can kind of show you how close in age they are. So two factors that could have led into that complete placenta previa. So my pregnancy was going normal. There was really no restrictions until I had some bleeding in early October. And then I went to the hospital and I was under 42-hour observation, and they sent me home, and nothing really changed until one day in the middle of the night in October, my water broke and I was having some really heavy bleeding, which if you have a placenta previa, it is a concern that your placenta actually can rupture. But at my time when I was pregnant, I was at 19 weeks, and at that time they were hoping that the placenta previa was going to correct itself, but it ended up not correcting itself, obviously. So the second time I ended up in the hospital after the water broke, which ended up being it didn't break, it actually just started leaking, and then it sealed itself back up, which can happen. I don't know how, but it did end up sealing itself back up. It was more of like a rip in the water. I don't really know how to describe it because I was more concerned about the placenta previa. So at that time when I ended up in the hospital, they were like, you are going to be here now until you have your baby. So you'll either have it from now until we do a scheduled C-section at 34 weeks, because with the placenta previa, they were going to only allow me to be pregnant until week 34. So that was like a whole whirlwind of things and emotions, because at that time, now I'm away from my family and I have a less than a 1-year-old at home, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. So my little peanut is like my whole world, and that was really hard to digest. And knowing of all the risks that could happen, and knowing that the baby, no matter what, was going to come at 34 weeks if I like it or not. And there's a whole nother issues with 34 weeks, because then the baby's going to be in NICU. And if the baby comes in even earlier, it's going to be a NICU if it makes it, because we really needed to get to that 22 week in order for anything to really thrive. So it was just like an emotional roller coaster, and really on pins and needles every day. So the hospital staff for labor and delivery was amazing. They were just like the sweetest people ever. It was a really great experience. Plus, it made time go by really fast because I was able to do my nails and still film in the hospital. I will put a picture right here of my little nail setup. So everything was going good. Thanksgiving rolls around. That was just definitely a hard week because I was away from my family, and Thanksgiving's kind of like a big deal for me because I cook, and that was going to be when I celebrate my son's first birthday, because I was like, well, we're going to have family over anyways. We might as well just have his birthday during Thanksgiving, because December 4th is right around the corner. Why have people gather twice when we can just do it all at one time? So Thanksgiving was very bittersweet for me, but the hospital made it really nice for me. The doctor who was on call, I guess all the nurses and the doctors made Thanksgiving food so they could like celebrate and still have Thanksgiving, and they let me join in that celebration, which I was completely honored by, and it was just a very nice gesture. And here's my little Thanksgiving meal right here. I'll put a picture in as well. So everything was going good, and then I had like this overwhelming feeling on Thanksgiving, like something bad is going to happen. And my nurse was leaving for the day because their shifts were like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and then 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So you always had like a rotation. She was leaving, and she was like the sweetest nurse ever. And she was leaving, and I was so worried. And I was like, I just have this really bad feeling that something bad is going to happen, and I feel like I'm going to bleed to death. That was like my fear that day, and I could not let it go. Like I just had to tell her. And she's like, no, everything's going to be fine. Like, you made it this far. And that week, like, we even scheduled my C-section for December 19th. And like everything was going good and then all of a sudden I woke up in the middle of the night because I had to go to the bathroom, and there was a Sundara Nails sale that I did not want to miss, because if you ordered right away, it was like 50% off. And then every hour that went by, the percentage off was lower. I know, priorities, right? So I woke up in the middle of the night because I thought I had to go to the bathroom, and I was so focused on this sale that when I was trying to get out of bed, I put my hand down, and my hand like sunk, and it felt like it went submerged into water. Now, if you ever stayed in the hospital, the beds are like non-absorbent. So any liquids that are on that sheet or your blankets at that time kind of stay on for cleaning purposes. So I turned the light on in my room, and I was surrounded by blood. It was the most scariest moment of my life. My call light was not working at the time because they were putting in a new call system. And then the day before, there was an alarm that went off in my room when they were fixing the call system in the room next to me. So then they like cut that. It was crazy. And then I had an ultrasound. No, I had blood work the day before. So I had a phone, and they moved my phone like across the room. It was crazy. And I was like in a section of the hospital where you couldn't really, like, nobody would hear me if I was calling for help, if I needed help, because I was like in a quieter section, and the nurse's station was like way on the other side. So I ended up having to get out of bed to get the phone to call the nurse. I don't even know how I did that. Something was watching over me that day to like give me the strength I needed to make that phone call. But I called the nurse, and I was like, I think my placenta ruptured. And she came running in and saw everything that was happening. And it was from there, it was a crazy experience. She had me sit down, and at that point I was like so paralyzed from like standing, like I physically could not get into the bed again. And she was trying to find the baby's heartbeat at that time. It was like super chaotic and she couldn't find the baby's heartbeat. The doctor came in. I will never forget when the doctor ran in the room and her face and how the lighting was and the sounds of everything going on. And she came in the room and was like, we gotta go. So then we were rushing into the ER. I could not get a hold of my husband. Couldn't find the baby's heartbeat. I was not doing good at that time with the amount of blood loss that I lost. So I was thinking the worst, like, okay, I can't get a hold of my husband. The baby didn't make it. I'm probably not going to make it at this point with the amount of everything that is happening. So I ended up having that emergency C-section, and that was very traumatizing, knowing I was going to go under, not knowing if I was ever going to wake up again. So basically, that was probably one of the scariest moments of my life. I remember I was literally fighting the anesthesiologist, like fighting that person, and I feel so bad. I wish I could, like, reach out to that person to apologize because that was probably very traumatic for them as well. And everyone's tired. You know, it's Thanksgiving, now it's Black Friday. So everyone is probably just exhausted, and here I am fighting with everybody because I don't want to be put under. So everything obviously went smoothly. I woke up not knowing what happened. They did tell me that the baby was born and the baby is okay, but the baby was rushed into NICU and is under further observations with that, which is pretty standard protocol. At that point, I was in a lot of pain. My husband finally made it. He was able to come in after the C-section because obviously things happen so fast. So to give you kind of like a perspective on like time, I woke up at 12:54, and from 12:54 to 1:06, everything was done. So the baby was born at 1:06. So everything happened in like that short window. Like that's how fast everything happened. So it was super crazy. So I was able to see my husband. I was in a lot of pain because since it was an emergency, I did not get any pain medication or anything like that. So I ended up not getting any like medication for the pain for quite a while. But that was like the least of my worries. I was so concerned about the baby at that point. So finally, like 3 hours later, after recovery, I was able to see the baby for the first time. And that was just super crazy. There's not even like words that you can describe for that moment. Nothing in life can compare you for the series of events that happened and seeing your baby in NICU, with like all these cords and everything. And at that time, they were kind of letting him breathe on his own to see how things were going to proceed. And that was really hard, hearing him trying to breathe and like struggle with that. He ended up in the end needing to be incubated, and that was even crazy. Seeing, your baby for the first time and not being able to hold your baby at all with all these things on and not knowing what's going on was pretty terrifying. I actually had a really hard time in recovery where I ended up actually leaving the hospital that next night because it was just not a good place for me in recovery. The staff was not the best at all, especially compared to the sweet people that I had in labor and delivery. So that was definitely a main factor for me. And just the whole like experience on its own, I needed to be home. So I talked to the doctor and she just was like, yes, it's probably best for you just to recover at home at this time, which I did. So everything is fine now. NICU life is definitely a hard journey. I don't know how I did it. I don't know how women do it in general. It's very hard to be knowing you're at home recovering, trying to take care of your children at home, plus getting to NICU every day to take care of your baby. It's just like a very like balancing act that I would wish on nobody. And it's really hard knowing that other people are taking care of your baby and you're missing out on like all these things like holding your baby, the first bath, having someone else feed your baby and taking care of your baby. It's like a really weird, like disconnecting feeling where I was having a lot of trouble like going there, and I was like going through the motions, and it was hard. It didn't feel like I had a baby until the day that I brought my baby home. And I was actually worried when it was time to bring the baby home, because I was like, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to do this, because, but when I got my baby home, everything came together and I completely fell in love with him, and he is doing great. We had a couple obstacles. He did spend his first Christmas in NICU, which was really hard. So he was in NICU for a little over almost 2 months. So almost 2 months, 7 weeks. So he's doing good. So his name is Kylo. Um, Everyone's like Kylo Ren, like from Star Wars. No, but yes. I'm a big Disney junkie, but I do like the name Kylo. And my other son's name is Leo. So it's Leo and Kylo. So they are doing great. We are home now. I actually was able to bring my baby home a week ago, which was great. It's really great to have him home and the family back, and we can finally get on track and kind of regroup and be one again, because from October till now, it's really been chaotic in my household, and I really am thankful that, I'm here today, my baby's here today, and that everything turned out great, because a lot of NICU stories are even worse than mine. Sometimes babies don't make it. Sometimes babies are in there longer and have other issues. So basically, we were very fortunate where my baby just needed to figure out how to breathe on his own and eat on his own and really grow. So we were very blessed in that aspect of the NICU journey, but it is very hard. And if you've ever experienced NICU life, bless your heart, because it is a journey that I would not wish on anybody. And when you're in NICU too, you're not in like your own little room. You are surrounded by other parents and babies who are on this journey, who have totally different other health issues, and it's a very sad environment. So going there every day and going to the hospital every day after what I experienced was very hard for me. I'm hoping I never have to go there ever again, but I know someday, I will have to at one point, I'm sure. So that was very hard for me, but I have a really good support system. I could not do it without my family. My mom really helped with taking me there to the hospital, and my husband would go with me. He's such an amazing person. Everyone helped out in the time of need and came together, and I just really appreciate everyone who has reached out, from the nail people. The nail community is a really awesome community. So everyone who's reached out, I really appreciate it. Some of you had sent me some really amazing things. I know when I was in the hospital, the Dip Goddess Nail Group, they sent me a beautiful package of dips that I've never tried before from companies, and one of the girls sent me a Thanksgiving meal, which was amazing, because that was the first meal that I ate. It actually was delivered on the day that I had the baby. So that was so awesome that it was planned like that. I mean, out of nowhere. I mean, I was supposed, it wasn't planned to have it like that, but to have it a nice meal after something so traumatic was awesome. So, and everyone's kind words, and a lot of you have sent me stuff, and I really, really appreciate it. I appreciate all your support during this time. And you can see here how Kylo is now home. He's in his little swing with his leopard blanket. He's doing very well. So again, this is my journey, and I hope this answers a lot of your questions. We are doing good, and I hope that, my journey, talking about it, really actually helps me close this chapter. I feel like not only did I need to do this to fill you guys in on kind of like what my journey is, and maybe it will help anybody who is experiencing anything like this, but it also helped me in return. So thank you for listening to me ramble on about my journey. But yeah, we will leave it as is. And I really do like how this mani turned out. It's definitely a different type of mani, and it's one that I will remember and cherish forever in my little memory box of this journey. Now, Nails Truly creates custom decals, and this ultrasound on this decal is actually an ultrasound of Kylo when I found out I was having a baby. I am an ambassador for Nails Truly, so she made these custom decals for me. But if you ever have like a baby announcement or anything like that and you want your own custom like decals, she can definitely hook you up. She does make custom decals, so I'll link all that information below. But thank you again for all your support during this journey. I will link everything that we use in this mani in the description box below. And I will see you in tomorrow's upload.
Oh yeah, you get to say bye to your room as you pass. Oh, I have to get your mask. So we can get that.
Okay.
I can grab that for you. Realistically, I don't know that you can wear it too well.
Bye, room. It's been real.